Okay, we're going to get going here, if that's okay with everybody. So I'm going to start with a reverse panel discussion here, and I'm going to start asking questions, because one thing I've realised is I don't know who's in this room. Haven't had the sign-up list in advance. Nobody's raising hands. Slido is amazing, but I would love to get a sense of, by show of hands, who here is a founder? Okay. And of the founders, which is about half of the room, who here is like 1 to 3 year founder? Okay, about a third. And then everybody else is like 3 plus? Okay, great. And then the other half of the room, who here is a researcher, academic? Okay, 2, 3, 4. People are kind of like maybe. All right. And then other people, are you like practitioners in the ed tech space, like working in a company doing ed? Yeah, a few. And then other people, what are you doing? Are you just curious and just stop by for the day? Okay, so there's some agency people that I know, some tech people. All right, so there's an interesting mix. So I want to make sure that I speak to the audience as opposed to an agenda that I may have. And what I will say is that is the primary number one ambition of any founder or any consultant in a business to start with. My background is in the ed tech space, so completely relevant to the conference. I started in my career in Dublin. I now live in New York for the last 17 years. And a lot of the times when you're building your career and you're building your business, you're in your own head and you're thinking about what you need. And the number one differentiator for all of the founders and all of the good business people that I see is that they are more curious about the other person. Yes, they have an agenda, but it's not about them, it's about the other person. So I'm just going to start there and keep that in your heads, and then share a little bit about my journey, and then Tom and I are going to have a Q&A, and I would love questions as well from all of you in terms of hearing everything that you heard today. What has not been answered, because that panel was phenomenal. Like Mary, always with the great wisdom, Helen's great wisdom, like it's so practical. But I still, if there's anything that we felt wasn't addressed today, we would want to address it in this session. So first of all, a little bit about my background, because you're probably thinking, well, who does she think she is up there saying all these things? And maybe who do I think I am? But that's the point. You kind of have to be ambitious and have the audacity to think that you know things that can actually add value to other people while being curious. So I started 20 years ago at a company called Intuition. Has anybody ever heard of Intuition? A few Intuition people in the room as well. Best kept secret in the edtech space, I would say. We're one of the best known, if you've worked with us, and we work with everybody in finance, pharma, and big tech, ed tech companies. And I started with Intuition 22 years ago, and 17 years ago went to the US to try and support growth of the business in the US, which is now the biggest market. My background is in technology. I'm a UX designer, went to Letterkenny IT, then I went to DLI ADT, and then I did my master's in multimedia systems in Trinity. So I was always obsessed with front-end UX. How do we as people interact with the technology? How do we tell stories? How do we relate to each other? How do we take the best of who we are as people and fuse that with what technology can offer? And that kind of set course from my career. 7 years ago became the CEO, so I've worked literally from building the products to who wants the products, to selling the product, to building, to sell the products, to reinventing, to the point about founders always pivot, businesses pivot. Like when I landed in New York, it was 2008, the first financial crisis. Nobody wanted to talk to anybody who was doing any sort of learning, but everybody knew that they needed compliance and reg training, so that's where we pivoted to. 5 years ago, I got involved with an organisation called Digital Irish. Has anybody here ever heard of Digital Irish? A few people? So we're primarily started in New York, but there's hubs all over, and there's a really great community in London. But essentially, it's a not-for-profit. We volunteer. I'm an executive board member, and it's all our own time. And it's very much about reciprocity. So what you give, you get back. And we give our free time. And we host educational events every single month. And 3 years ago, I became a founding member of what we call Irish Tech Week. So Irish Tech Week was a 4-day conference, then a 3, and now it's 2. It's in a week's time in New York City. We had 65 applications from maybe, does anybody here apply to Irish Tech Week? No. Did you get selected? Sorry. Okay, so we are brutal in our selection criteria, let me tell you. Like I'm sure that there was a very valid reason, but there's like a set of criteria of what you're looking for with the US, when you're going to the US, right? So there's a certain stage that you need to be within your business. You have to have proved that you have some sort of traction. So there's all these criteria. In a week's time, we have our 2-day event, and we're bringing over, there's 18 companies now in total, 2 had to back out, but we selected 20. And essentially it's 1 day of inspirational talks from Irish people in our community who have done incredibly well in the tech world. It's not just an ed tech conference. And then day 2 is all practitioner led. So we're bringing in mentors, speakers who are educating on raising funds, building out your prototype, marketing yourself, the art of storytelling, pitching yourself, your own personal brand. So there's a lot in there within those 2 days. But that's given me a unique exposure to just working with founders the whole time, and I kind of consider myself an entrepreneur, and that I'm founding different things in a company all the time, and then I have access to founders, and I love the mindset of founders. And what I will say, just being a entrepreneur, a friend of a founder, and an Irish person living in America, the way I would summarize today and thinking about things is the edtech space, right? It's huge. It's $400 billion now. It's going to be $500 billion in 5 years' time, and that's a fact. It is the coolest, most stable industry to ever start a business in, because knowledge and skills are needed. Like everyone talks about skill building, just to actually have a business, you need skills. So really anything that we're doing in the edtech space is the storefront to any type of business. Like it's really expanded what you can call edtech as an industry, and opportunities for new founders to tap into that space of skill building equals revenue, equals reduced time to deliver, and it applies to every single business in the world. So now you have this like 500 plus billion opportunities. So that's the whole industry at large, and we're all about automation and systematizing all of our processes and everything that AI can bring. Then there's you as a founder. And that is personal to you, and that is who you are, and that's where you have to go deep. And we mentioned psychology, and it's a psychological study being a founder, and how you relate to other people, and how you are in and outside of your head, and at what points, and how you present. And I'll also kind of share that we talk about having this like pitch ready and having a deck, and knowing all your talking points. When I first went to the US, and I did not know what I was doing, I'll share with all the intuition people in here now, because confidently it worked, but I didn't. And I had a pitch deck, but I never once used the same story in the same flow in the same way, because everybody is different and looking for different things. And I think one big misunderstanding that everyone has is like, okay, I've got my pitch deck down. I'm going to go into that person, and this person's going to be interested in this, and I've gotten that feedback from somebody else. You have to have maybe a 5-slide deck that's pulling from a 100-slide deck, that you're able to pivot in the moment of the conversation, because you're realizing what's important to the other person because of what you're asking them about. So that's you. You're like, there's the big opportunity, there's you as a founder, and then over here there's you as an Irish person. And one thing I have learned from the Irish community, being in New York over the last 5 years, is that it's a superpower of a network. So much so that I would bet money on it, that whether you're looking for a new job or promotion or investment or a business idea or validation on your idea, the person to get you the thing that you're looking for is literally in this room. I guarantee, I would bet money on it, and I wish that there was a way for us to immediately know that. But that is the future. In the future, we will immediately know. In a room right now, you'll be getting dinged. It will be like matchmaking, all of us. Like, that's what's coming. But what I'll say is it's already here. So sometimes we go to conferences and we absorb as much information as we can, and then we're like rushing off to the next thing. If anything, I think we need to be way more intentional. And the work that I do with Digital Irish, and especially with Irish Tech Week, is to express that when you walk into a room, drop your agenda and just like meet the people where they're at. Be very present, because you just don't know. And there's a lot about the world that we don't understand, and cosmic connections. But it is important to just recognize that we're all here today for a reason. Don't rush off fast to the next thing. Try and figure out who was here and who could help. And then when somebody does help you, pay that forward. So what I'm going to suggest is where I used to think about like, oh, the 500 billion to 2030, yeah, me as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as a friend of a founder, or as a CEO of a company, and then me as an Irish person, I now have like Irish, Ireland, huge, and then I'm still the same person, and then the opportunity is here, smaller. And when it comes to tapping into the 500, 400 billion dollar, whatever you want to call it, you just need to find one person who you know you can solve a problem for. And do it. And that whole messaging around follow up fast, like we see people blazing into New York, like their energy is up and they're meeting 1 million people in the week, and then you're like, oh yeah, I haven't heard from that person yet, and it's a week later. Like, it is brutal out there. You have to, right now we're doing boot camps for Irish Tech Week, and we're saying write your thank you follow-up mails now. You haven't even gotten there, but you're going to be one-pagers, here's my unique value add and position, and you've researched the person you're meeting before you met them, so have something personal in there. Do it now, because it will be unforgiving. Like, we start rating people the minute we meet them, and I think that was mentioned in a few of the panel discussions, that who you are is who your business is, and how your speed to response is how you're judged. And when it gets to, okay, if you're kind of getting to the point where I want to ask for something, it might be too late, because you may not have really backed up that you're credible because you weren't fast enough. So they're just some of the things that I would say is like, flip, reverse it. You're Irish, there's an incredible community. We do a huge amount with EI, Awaken Angels, Dog Patch, Ormu Labs. Like, you wouldn't believe the amount of what the government is doing, what EI is doing. Like, you heard about, it sounds like there's just loads of money flying around the place that you can tap into. But all I can say is there's a huge group of people going out of their way, a lot in their own spare time, and some as their like career mission, vision, values, ambition, to help founders in here who are trying to make it, and you should tap into that. That should be your biggest asset and thing that you come away from today. And then yes, America's waiting, and I could have a whole conversation about the US market right now, and happy to if anyone has any questions around that. So I think I probably ate my 20 minutes with my sound of my own voice, but I was meant to...
No, you've got plenty of time left here, and I would like to throw it open to some questions. I'm sure there's plenty of questions in this room for somebody in your position, with your network, as you said, and experience. So does anyone here have any questions or any hands? Yeah, right here. I'll give you a microphone.
If you were having to set up a company now in the States, where would you base it? Where would you incorporate, say, a subsidiary to deal with the now requirements for like having a US-based entity, US staff, US servers? Where would you base it?
I mean, I get asked that a lot. It depends on where your customers are. So you want to be, if your customer is everywhere.
Well, 15 states so far.
Okay. So then where do you want to be? I think it's like, I mean, look, there's a different culture in every single state, and there's like a type of person you'll be in every single state. If you're looking for, like, there'll be hubs where there's better tech talent or music talent, or, there's definitely hubs, and I would encourage, there's a conference every year that we were just at, that's in Philadelphia, that name I'm blanking on, that brings basically representatives, like there's a booth, it's like the South by Southwest of the founders in the title of this conference, but anyway, in Philadelphia, and from a tax perspective, talent, just like cost of living, legal requirements, like it'll give you the breakdown. You don't have to go to the conference, but they have all the information on their website, which I'll remember in a moment. So outside of like, well, what's a practical place to be from tax, from talent, because they're really cost of living. Like, New York's expensive. It's expensive to hire people there. But where you are and where your team is doesn't have to be in the same place. And you don't also, I would say, obviously now there's all the shenanigans going on with, and so do people even want to go to them? I don't know. So you don't have to be there all the time either. I could talk about a lot about that, like, perception bias towards, like, I need to literally be here to be seen here. You can be seen without physically being in a place, hence digital, virtual, all of that. But I don't know, I think if it was me and I was setting something up and I was like, well, I want to be near this like tech college because there's a lot of people who love staying in Austin. They're coming out of that and it's a pharma hub and it's the next tech hub. I'd probably pick Austin because I love Austin. Good tax, good talent. But it's personal to me. So I would say you're going to do your best work in your best environment. I think that becomes important as well as a founder to put yourself first.
Other questions? Any hands? Yeah, here we go.
What would one piece of advice you would give your younger self going over to America and knowing now that you are the CEO of the Americas and Intuition?
Great question. I think everybody's going to say, just believe in yourself a little bit more. I think I've always operated with a crazy sense of urgency, and I kind of think in a weird way that served me quite well because I'm urgent to, like, even walking to get coffee, I'm urgently, like my superintendent in the building is like, where are you going on a Sunday morning? And I'm like, I don't know, I just have one mode. But I think that if I was to go back and say to myself, I'd probably just be like, just grand, just like chill a little bit. Just stroll. Vibes, maybe, believe in yourself a little bit more, it's going to come. I think sometimes, like, I often say to myself, hold it with a lighter touch, because like the more you try and hang on and control something, the more it wants to run away from you. So I think I said that to myself a lot at the beginning, that I had to learn but I am the type of person that actually needs to live an experience. Like, you could tell me something, I'd be like, okay, but I'm just going to, so I think, I don't know, everything happens as it should.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. We have one time for one more question, so I'm just gonna fire it at you. You mentioned the sort of fast follow-up as a key skill. You probably see a lot of startups coming over trying to make the leap into the North American market. To the ones that don't successfully make that leap, besides the follow-up fast, what would you say that they could have done? What's the one thing that you would advise to a startup that was going over there that you've seen over and over, people making the same mistake?
I think it's like assuming that it's going to happen fast. Like not to be cliche, but it is a marathon. People come over to Irish Tech Week and thinking that they're going to have launched by the end of the week. And that's why we're like, write your email, this is just the beginning. And actually, I think that there's no failure point unless you decide that there is. Like, at what point are things not working out? Like, is it you saying that they're not working out? Because that's because you've just decided and now you're saying it and you're putting it out there. We talk a lot about being resilient, and we do training and intuition about resiliency within business. And I think that perhaps the difference is just like level of resilience, because usually if somebody's giving up, they're literally just after putting it out there that they are, and you can feel that way, but you shouldn't put that out there, because what you put out comes back. Resilience is all about processing your emotions, regulating them, like focusing back in on what your original mission was, recalibrating, and just taking one step forward, not a giant leap all the time. So, yeah.
Great, well, thank you very much, and we'll give a big hand to Sarah Clarke. And folks, there is a drinks reception out in the main hall there from 4:30 until our budget runs out. So I think they've allocated a certain amount of money. So, just go out there, have yourself a beer, wine, water, whatever it is, and as they all said here, network. The people are probably in this room. So thank you.